Hello, and welcome to Meet the Author, a show where we explore the world through the imagination of talented writers. On this show, we will talk with authors from Laurel, Prince George's County, the DMV, and beyond. Our guest author is Ms. Tracy Johnson, an educator with the Montgomery County Public School System. Ms. Johnson took her love of teaching and wanting to help students to another level when she decided to write a book, especially for them, entitled Out of Time, a book about honesty. She also encourages students to use their imaginations and skill set to write stories of their own. Let's meet Ms. Johnson. Hi, Ms. Johnson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Christine. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm glad. So we're just going to start talking a little bit about your background. So we'll learn about you. It says you were born and raised in Washington, D.C., but your education, took you up and down the East Coast. So let's start with your undergraduate education. What school did you attend and what did you study?
I attended Virginia Union University, located in Richmond, Virginia. After I did undergrad, of course, I came home, started teaching, novice teacher, ready for new experiences, and I decided to obtain my master's in education. That led me to Cambridge, Massachusetts. It was an accelerated program, so basically we went to school for the summer. We picked what topics we wanted to study on. We got our research, started doing our work. We came back home in the end of August, continued to work on our thesis, and then by that following January, February, we had graduated. The courses were very extensive, but I loved every single one of them.
Okay, sounds good. So that started your career as a teacher?
Yes.
And then you moved on to your master's degree?
Yes, that is where I went to Cambridge College, and it's like I said, in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And in that program, like I just said, it was accelerated. It was very extensive. We learned many different you learn many different aspects of education, different perspectives. You met so many different people, and just the experiences alone just taught me so much.
Okay, and then with those experiences, you wanted to do a little bit more. What did you want to do after that?
Yes, so after we came home and I graduated and got my master's, received my master's in education, I went back into the classroom, and my love for teaching has primarily been in the primary grades. I've taught first grade, second grade. I moved up to fourth for a while, and then I got put back down in the lower grades. But after starting to, do various grade levels, I decided that it was time to try something different, but I really wasn't sure where to start. So I decided to go back to school, and I went to get my reading certification. Okay. So this program was at Walden University, but it was an online great opportunity because I had just had my second child. So it was easy for me to stay at home with my children, work full time, and then give my evenings to this graduate program. Okay. And it was very extensive as well. But I wanted to, I knew that it was time for me to leave the classroom so that I could reach more students. So I completed that program, and I ended up leaving the classroom. Okay. And yes.
So before you left the classroom, did you actually do some study? You said first grade in the elementary school. How long did you do that for?
Wow. I originally started my teaching career in DC Public Schools. Okay. So I started in DC Public Schools. I was there for 4 years. Then I came over to Montgomery County, and I was also in first grade. I did the primary grades as well. I would say on average, I've probably done first grade for about 10 or 12 years. Okay. Probably a little longer than that, but that's the average, yes.
Okay, sounds good. Working with the kids must have been rewarding for you.
Very, very rewarding.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. And you said you wanted to broaden your horizons and explore different aspects, and that's when you talked about the reading certification.
Yes.
So what did that do for you? How did that help your experience and your education?
It's really interesting, Christine, because first grade is where you really start to, the children learn their foundations.
Right.
It's where you're really delving in deep and the children are really learning how to read and, you know, the comprehension increases, but those classes really taught me the why behind it.
Okay.
You know, everything, when you're taking your classes, and of course you want to do your best and you're striving for that A, you're really not thinking about the why behind it and the achievement process. So those classes really answered the why for me, and it just improved my skill set. So when I finished the program, I was like, yes, I felt like Wonder Woman or a superhero.
Oh, that's good.
And I was just more motivated. So, and that's when I knew, I was like, this is my passion.
Okay.
This is what I am meant to do, whether I'm teaching adults or whether I'm teaching children.
And that's probably a good feeling to have, to get that
Absolutely.
Superwoman feeling and have your purpose. I know that's a really good feeling.
Absolutely.
Cool. So with the 10 years of teaching, you said that was Montgomery County schools?
Yeah, a mixture of DC public schools and Montgomery County schools. But now, so each degree that I've had, I've let a little time lapse by, but I've now been teaching a total of about 26 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't believe it myself.
That's a lot of time to spend with the kids and pouring into them. So with that love of teaching and then finding your passion, I know in your bio you also wrote that you love reading. So it would be remiss, or we would luckily think that you would write a book, right?
Exactly.
So you can teach the kids and help them read. So that would just be natural. So when did you decide to start writing a book? How did that process work out for you?
I decided a couple of years ago. You know, right now I am a focus teacher. I still teach, but I'm just not in the classroom full time. But I work with various grade levels. I multitask. I do a lot of different things, but mainly I work with children who might be slightly below grade level, and I work with them to bring them up to par and just to catch them up as much as possible. Some need a double dose. Some might need a little bit more extensive teaching. But I knew that there was something else that I should be doing. So I asked, you know, I'm very spiritual. So I asked the Lord, I was like, Lord, what is my purpose? And the answer didn't come right away, but it did shortly after that. And I clearly heard, you need to write a book.
Okay.
And that's where my process began. And for a while, for months, I struggled because I didn't know what topic, what direction to take it in. I knew that I did not want to do a fairy tale.
Right.
I wanted to do something that was gonna stick with the children, whether they were our students, anyone's children. I think about my own children and what I want them to gain and learn from life and life's experiences. So I wanted it to be something that was very meaningful.
Okay.
And this is how my path started. So I decided to go with character education.
Okay. Very good. So that's the premise of the book. This is considered character.
Yes.
Okay. And nice to know. So you said about how long did it take you to complete it? You said you got the idea for it, but how long did the whole process take?
The entire process took probably, I would say, about 2 years, maybe 2.5 by the time I started with the purpose, trying to navigate exactly, like I said, what topic I wanted to use, what genre, and then just trying to get the characters. And just, you know, people think writing a book is very easy.
Right.
They think that it just comes out of nowhere, but it's a lot of thought, research, planning, you know, that goes into it. So I would say the whole process, but starting the book, going through publishing, it took about a good 2.5 years.
Okay. Now with that process, I know you talked about research and stuff like that, but do you actually like write an outline? How do you go through the process?
Once I decided that I was going to write about, have a storyline with character education, first I had to figure out which character trait I wanted to focus on first. And once I got that character trait down, so of course this book is a book about honesty. This character trait was about being truthful and honest. Then I wanted to I had to think about my characters, and I had to make sure that those characters related to a typical elementary kid. this day at this day and time now. I had to think about the events in the story and how I wanted to connect with them. I wanted to be as realistic as possible. So then I was thinking of different events and things. I was like, okay, I knew that I wanted to start off with male characters first. So the second thing that came into my mind was, okay, what events do you want to use? I was like, okay, what does an average 9 or 10-year-old like to do in their spare time? Play soccer, go to the skate, find somewhere to skateboard. So those type of things came to mind. And then once I got that started, everything just started flowing.
Right, so it's really good. It was very appropriate, with the age limit.
Yes.
So it was very nice. So now with all that, with all the hard work and the time, and I'm not sure if you've written another book yet, but do you think it's easier or harder to write a children's book as opposed to just like a fiction or a book about someone's life? Do you think it's easier or harder, or are you not sure?
I think for me, now that I've written the first one, I think it's easier.
Okay.
If I compare a children's book to a Daniel Steele or a certain thriller, absolutely it would be harder. But I think with children, straight right off the bat that you don't want the book to be too long.
Right.
You want to think about your characters, make sure that it's something that's eye appealing, something that keeps their attention. So with that being said, I've learned I've learned a lot of things, but I've just learned that the processes now are much easier to go through than trying to do a novel on a grander scale.
Right.
Yeah, so I would say definitely easier.
Okay, well that's good because you have to learn through the process, right? Like
Absolutely.
why go through it if you don't learn?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and then speaking about eye appealing, like this is a very colorful. The illustrations are very nice. So how did you work on your illustrations? If you could tell us about that a little bit.
So there were many illustrators that I had in mind to complete this book with me. And believe it or not, some of them it didn't work out because of scheduling. They just didn't have my vision. And believe it or not, my illustrator is one of my fellow co-workers. She now works at another school, but she was one of our art teachers.
Okay.
And I know that everything was supposed to happen this way because when I approached her about it, I really just thought that she was just going to use, do sketches. And she had told me that she was actually taking an illustrator's class at the time when I approached her, and she was so anxious and excited to try to take the project on. To be honest with you, she asked me about the characters. She asked me how did I want each one to look, and this was all visual, all in her mind. And I saw none of the illustrations until she was finished. And
wow.
She actually used watercolors. And when I saw the finished product, I was so elated. I just wanted to cry. I was so emotional because I said, you pictured it, you got it. It was just amazing.
Right, well, I say it's amazing when it all comes together, right?
Yes.
It comes from the mind and then it actually gets out on paper. It's a great process.
Yes, it is. So I was very, very thankful and grateful to her.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. So we talked about, the character development. So some key lessons are taught, in your book: honesty, integrity, and time management. Now, why did you choose those? Was it a certain reason or?
Yes, I particularly honed in on those traits because as a teacher, you have students that come and go, and being an intervention teacher and working with so many groups throughout the day, throughout the years, you see a lot. I've learned that things are in our time in our country is just different from the times that we grew up. There used to be a time when there was no thought or question. If you did something wrong and you made a mistake, it was okay. Your parents talked to you about it. They talked to you about the severity of being honest, and you got it. But our generations have shifted a bit, and sometimes we prefer to take the easy way out. And taking the easy way out sometimes means that you're not honest, sometimes with yourself or with others. And one thing, before I even wrote the book, I stressed to all of my students, my own children, always tell the truth, because your integrity follows you throughout life. It's a process, it's just a part of life that you cannot escape. Your integrity is pretty much, it's your map. It's your compass. If you don't have some of those strong character traits down now, what's going to happen to you when you're 15, 20, 25,
Too late.
Exactly. So I figured if I can just reach, even if it's just a few for now, that's okay, but the word will get out. And it's actually funny with the book, when I published the book, when I put the book out to some of the teachers in my school, I asked them to read the story to the kids and, get their opinions and see how they reacted. I was really surprised at what some of the kids said. It was positive feedback, but when they were talking about the characters, I was just surprised at some of the answers that they gave and expressed.
To stuff.
Yeah, I was like, wow. And I was like, I'm so glad that I chose this first trait to focus on.
Okay, well, that's good. And going through the book, like I said, it was a good, interesting read. And one thing I like about it, I like to pull out, interesting things in the books. You asked the readers a multiple choice question in your book, so I thought that was interesting. What made you add that element to the book?
I wanted to have a different spin, a different approach with the book, but I also wanted the students to stop just for one moment, to stop and think about everything that had happened so far in the book and really ask themselves, if you were this character, what would you have done? Why would you have done that? And really have a chance to reflect on it. So I just wanted to do, like I said, do something different, but that was the main thing. I just wanted them to stop and think, because a lot of times when we're reading, sometimes we are, of course, when we're reading for enjoyment, we want to find the humorous parts. Sometimes we may not take things as serious, but when you are reading and you're really trying to comprehend, sometimes you just have to stop, reread, go back, think about some of the other events that have happened to try for you to synthesize and put all the pieces together to get the right answer.
Okay, and I think that's good for the kids to do. Like you said, don't just skim on through.
Yes.
Take your time and think about what you have read.
Absolutely.
Now, you mentioned the feedback from the students. Did they mention anything about that at all?
Yes, they did. Some of the students said that if they were in Shane's position, the main character in the book, they said that they would not have said anything.
Really?
They would have just played it out, not told their parents what had happened in the story, and just hoped that time just moved on. And a few did say, no, that's not right. I would have definitely have told someone. I was really shocked. I just thought more of the kids would be like, no, it's important to tell the truth.
But like you said, they're changing.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But I am happy to see that, being a teacher, I have friends and, other colleagues in different schools, and some counselors have used the book to do lessons. And so it's good to hear a variety of comments. And some of my fellow colleagues in other schools as well, they're like, I read the book to my kids and they did, illustrations and talked about their favorite parts, and so that was good to hear.
So good, yeah, it's bringing up a discussion about honesty, which is exactly what you wanted, right?
Absolutely.
Very good. So what would you say your target audience would be and the age range for the people to read this book?
I would say from kindergarten to 4th grade.
Okay.
Now, of course, with kindergarten, most of the kindergartners the parents would have to read it to them. But yeah, I would say K through 4 would be the best way to describe it, yes.
Okay. And with, you talked about the publishing, and there are a lot of different options out there for people to get a book out. So I'd just like to see, did you do self-publish or did you use a traditional publishing company? How did you do that?
I attempted to use a traditional publishing company, but it didn't work out. Like I said, I've learned so much about this process. I ended up using self-publishing, and I love the process, but I would just like to say to people aspiring to write books, just do your homework and really research and read the fine print and ask questions. Each publishing company is different, but I would like to stress to you that you have to get in there, ask questions. How do I say it? You ask the questions that may not necessarily be the everyday mundane questions. Ask about your pricing up front. Ask them how many pages is the norm, because you know, when you're starting your own book, you automatically do your own research, but because you're new to it, there are just things that you don't know, and then by the time your process has ended, it's too late, you know. So I would just say to anyone, just really, really do your homework and research. And one thing that was very helpful to me, I had like a little focus group, and I had personal friends and family come over, and we went through the book and dissected it and broke it down, and we looked for, you know, errors with the grammar and the spelling, making sure everything was correct. So that was definitely a blessing, and it helped.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
That's a way to work that out. So with everything that you've learned about writing a book and having your first one out, do you plan on writing others?
Yes, I do.
So you still want to write, huh? It didn't scare you away?
Yes, no, it didn't scare me.
Okay.
If anything, it motivated me even more.
Okay.
I am in the process of completing my second book. My goal is to sell my books to school systems. They're already in libraries. I have them in our local libraries here in our area, but I would like to get them into school systems so that they could really, really be used in different ways for lessons, just the exposure, not just through our counselors, but our teachers as well. So my goal is to do a complete series.
Okay.
Yeah, and just still focus on those different character traits and just have a different spin for each one.
Sounds good. We look forward to hearing more from you.
Oh, thank you.
And if you can, just share your contact information and how someone can purchase your book.
Yes, you can purchase books or email me personally at tracysbooks10@gmail.com, and Tracy's is TRACYS. You can also purchase them on Shopify, which is tracysbooks.myshopify.com.
Okay, well, thank you, Ms. Johnson. Like I said, it's a very good concept. We hope that it reaches many kids in the public school and beyond. And just thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. I've had a great time.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. In Out of Time, a book about honesty, the main character, Shane, learns an important lesson, one that adults could also be reminded of. This is a bright, colorful children's book that immediately catches the eye. Ms. Johnson does an excellent job of teaching a fundamental lesson and the consequences of the choices that we make, good or bad. This is a great read for school-aged children. I would like to thank Ms. Tracy Johnson for joining me today. You can clearly see her love of teaching and reading and how she uses it to help children learn, grow, and become better people overall. It just shows that the investment we make in our children will always be important because the children are indeed our future. We hope she continues her great works. If you are an author and would like to be featured on our program, you can send an email to cmjohnson@laurel.md.us or call 301-725-5300, extension 2110. We would love to have you on the show. I'm Christine Johnson, reminding you to open a book and let it take you on your next adventure.